Well, Gerbil announced it, Ryan, and we're here to talk about it. It's Phil and Ryan. Listen up, Ryan. As UConn gets Qadence Samuels, the 6'2" guard from Forestville, Maryland. And I told you, Ryan, something special, man, when they come from our own backyard. And that's just what happened as we come on this Monday, June the 27th, as we are coming up on July, just that much closer for UConn women's basketball. We can't wait, and we all know that you can't wait. Ryan, this is a big one. This is a big one because, hey, not only is she a very talented player, she her stock rose on the ESPN list, but hey, it's the future. It's the future, and it's very important to look at the future. When we talked about it already, this is not the WNBA. This is not a professional league, Ryan. You get 4 years, no matter how good your player is, and after 4 years, your player is gone. So it's always important to look at the future, and they landed their third player in the class of 2023.
Yeah, being joined by Ashwin Shade and KK Arnold. Of course, you did that KK Arnold interview on our channel, so that's up. If you guys haven't seen that, make sure you go check that out. Very, very good interview. Very proud of that one. But yeah, Qadence Samuels from the suburb of DC, not too far away from us. So I was very excited when I was researching her. I had no idea she was from Maryland. So very, very exciting. But she joins Ashwin Shade, KK Arnold, and that's what it's all about. Recruiting these players and making sure you get transfers every single year. And Gino and these assistant coaches and the scouts on UConn always make sure to do a great job of that every single year, like we've seen this year with getting Lou and bringing Ice Brady in, and also Ayanna Patterson. But Qadence Samuel, I think she has a very high ceiling, a 6'2" guard / forward. She describes herself as a big guard, and I think that's really what UConn needs more of, because we talked about a little bit in the past about Paige Beckers, AZ Fudd, kind of smaller guards. They're very good, but I think we talked about Paige Beckers possibly getting
Size,
stronger,
yeah,
and size
yeah.
being a major factor. But
But the strength, we talk about the size, but also the strength. I mean, obviously, you don't really control the ability to how much you grow. I mean, how tall you get. I mean, that's basically it's what runs in your genes, right? So we're mostly
yeah.
talking about the strength factor, not only getting bigger, but again, you don't have to necessarily be big to be strong.
Yeah, and Samuels averaged 13.5 points, 7 rebounds. And the scouts for UConn, I was reading a couple of their notes. They said very good defender. Obviously, her length helps her out a lot there. And a
Yeah,
very good rebounder as well. She crashes the boards. And big thing that they mentioned is as she grows up and gets stronger, her defense and rebounding will improve. And we're hoping to see that a little bit out of Paige Beckers also during the all season, hoping she gets stronger as well and her defense and rebounding improves. A little bit more on Samuel. She's also a very good offensive player, and she has a very, very good deep range shot. And you mentioned that a little bit
yeah.
about her improving her shot during the all season, and her stock kept on rising throughout the course of her year. And I think that's what really impressed UConn the most, and why they kind of jumped on Samuels and recruited her to come to UConn was because of the progress she made throughout this whole entire last season, throughout her junior year of high school. Really improved her shot making, her finishing around the painted area, and of course that outside shot that Gino loves. He loves players that can shoot that outside shot from 3-point range. So Samuels, she looks like she has a high ceiling. Ranked number 35, as we mentioned, not top 5 or top 10, but I don't really think that matters as long as she keeps it going. Hopefully she has a good senior year. Maybe she can get on the U18 team, possibly with Ashwin Shade or KK Arnold. But she seems like she has a really high ceiling.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you bring up she comes at number 35 on the list for ESPN's 2023 class. It kind of caught my eye because we're so used to UConn getting those top 10, top 20 players, landing them top 10 or 20 recruits. But if I'm sitting back and I'm a UConn fan, I'm like, there's really no concern at all. I mean, with as far as the rich history we talk about at this school, as far as women's basketball and the program, how it's ran under head coach Gino, I don't, and to me, I think if you're any other team on this, as far as you watch the highlights, very talented player. That is Qadence Samuels. But with that said, Ryan, I think that it's again out of Bishop McNamara High School um, in Maryland. I think that it's very safe to say that if I'm a head coach of some of these other teams, especially if you have to see UConn, I don't know how many times, 1-2 times a year, I'm very concerned, and I'm a little bit scared, to be honest with you, because the factor that she's very good, very talented, but not only that, she's going to UConn. And with that said, you have a chip on your shoulder when yes, she upped her stock. That's fine. But at the same time, you're number 35. How would that really make you feel? To me, if you want to be honest with you, it make me mad, very mad that 34 other players are ahead of me on the list and I'm not number one. Okay. So with that said, you have to keep the mindset. And that's what pushes you into college, into your college career. They talk about what right here, what lays on your shoulder, a chip on your shoulder. So I think that's very important. And Ryan, I think that's why that I would be a little bit concerned, especially if I have UConn on my schedule this year or this season coming up, if I'm a head coach of any other team other than UConn, because, hey, sometimes we look at it as, hey, yes, they landed a top 5, a top 10, a top 20, but hey, this number 35, I'm only guessing. I'm not saying that it's going to come true, but I'm only guessing. This number 35, ranked number 35 on the list, Qadence Samuels, Ryan, she might turn out to be the biggest name out of them all, 2022 and 23.
She could be. You never know. It's very, very exciting and motivated. Very motivated player when she comes in. Hopefully, she's very motivated to possibly, kind of overcome and be better than those 34 players that are ranked ahead of her. Of course, 2 of those being her own teammates, KK Arnold and Ashlyn Shade. So it'll be very, very exciting to watch all 3 of them hopefully play together all 4 of their years together at UConn. But yeah, I mean, for Samuels, I think she could be a dark horse on this team being ranked number 35. I don't think a lot of teams or a lot of the bigger name schools like Stanford, NC State, Arizona, maybe they kind of overlooked her, passed her, and didn't really think much of her since she was ranked kind of a lot lower than, what you see those
that
players
happens a lot.
coming
Yeah,
in.
and you're right. That's the point I'm getting at, because, hey, Gino knows his stuff. He knows his stuff better than anybody else. So, hey, that's what I'm saying. Is it very scary to see her go this low, but to such a great program? Is it scary for other head coaches in the NCAA?
Yeah, I mean, there's a reason why Gino recruited her. I'm sure some of those coaches, I'm sure that their eyes got pretty wide and big when they saw this one. They're like, maybe we made a mistake in this one. Maybe we overpassed her.
Every player UConn picks, Ryan and I said, oh, yep. And every other team made a mistake, Phil.
Yeah, they might feel a little bad, but I mean, you never know. There's so much that can happen. But I mean, next year will be Paige's senior year, and then we'll have 3 new recruits coming in. So hopefully Paige can really help them out a lot, and AZ and Caroline too. They'll be juniors as well. So I think and we talked about, we're going over this series now with the assistant coaches, how they've played in the system already. They're so used to Gino's system. And they've played at UConn as a player in the past before, so they help all the players out tremendously as well. And I think that's also added to the list as another reason why coming to UConn is such a great place. Coming out of high school, you can learn so much from not only the assistant coaches, but learn a lot from the seniors. So it should be very, very exciting to watch yet another recruit come to UConn.
And we learned that from KK when I had talked to KK and sat down with her, that she said, well, the UConn's not too big. It's not too small. It's just right. So, but hey, we can't put full pressure and full blame on these other schools that did not land Qadence Samuels. The only reason why I say that, Ryan, we have to remember the schools, they do their job. And, she had offers from going through the list: North Carolina, Tennessee, Wake Forest, Florida State, Alabama. I can go on probably almost 10 other schools right here on the list. But with that said, maybe these other schools didn't rub off on her, didn't advertise as well, as UConn does. So that's a very big point that you brought up. You also have to come off strong on these players, on these rookies coming in, because hey, if you don't make a good first impression when they make that college visit, I don't know. Ultimately, is it, we think it's up to the player, but is it really, do they sit down with their parents? Do they sit down with their grandmother, their grandfather? We think about it's just ultimately up to the player, which I'm sure 90% of the time it is. With that said, though, I think a lot more goes into it than just saying, okay, a senior in high school. All right, I'm going to sign with this school and that's it. There's a lot more that goes behind the scenes.
Yeah, I mean, it's a very, very big decision. It definitely is. And I mean, nowadays there's so much with the transfer portal as well. So I mean, if a year doesn't work out, a player can transfer. And we've seen that a couple of times in the last couple of years with UConn players. But like I mentioned before, hopefully all three of these players that are coming in the 2023 class are here to stay all 4 years. I'd love to see watch and watch them grow throughout all 4 years under Gino, learn from Paige Beckers and get to play with AZ Fudd, Caroline Ducharme for 2 of those years. So hopefully everything will work out, but you just never know what the future holds.
I like that. I might as well screenshot this on my laptop or on my phone. I like that if you get the chance, and guys, same thing for people who watch this podcast. Scroll down to the article. It was titled "Shout out to Daniel Connolly," and that was Ryan. That was on SB Nation, the UConn blog. So shout out to him for bringing this article out. UConn wins basketball. UConn wins basketball lands 2023 wing Qadence Samuels. If you scroll all the way down, Ryan, it has a nice chart that they broke down. Daniel Connolly broke down it, and it shows it's color coordinated, right? And it shows who's in their fifth year, their senior, junior, sophomore, freshman year, and the spots that are still open on this team, rather on this roster. I guess they're allowed to carry. It looks like 15, a max of 15 players each season. Maybe people can correct me if I'm wrong, but it says 15 scholarships. So it's 1 through 15, Ryan. And a lot of there's still some spots open for 23 or 22, 23, and there's spots open for every season going from 22 through 25. So if you sit back and tell me, well, Phil, I understand it's very hard to get into this basketball program, but you have to realize if you're a parent out there, if you're pushing your daughter to, play harder, play faster, Ryan, sky's the limit. So you cannot doubt anyone. There's still a lot of open spots for years to come on this team, even though I understand it's very competitive.
Yeah, and this year we kind of already talked about the roster set, and I'm sure probably enough recruits for next year as well. All three of those recruits. I doubt if UConn recruits any more players from the class of 2023. Probably going to see one or two maybe transfers landed to UConn next season. I definitely expect at least one to come from the transfer portal for next season. So that's always fun. We get those news during the all season about a new transfer player. We get to learn and watch them grow for possibly a year or two under UConn. But yeah, I mean, like I said before, you never know what the future holds. The upcoming generation of players that are still in high school, freshmen in high school, could possibly be a UConn player one day. So you just never know.
I might be a little biased when I say this, but I'm looking here now, maybe because it just has Ashton Shade and Qadence Samuels now added to the list, and KK Arnold. But you look at it, like there's no fifth year returning players so far for 23-24, but 23-24 season, Ryan, I'm not saying don't get hyped up for 22-23, but the season after this season coming up, 23 and 24, oh boy, it's loaded. I mean, you have 4 seniors. You talk about experience: Beckers, Edwards, Griffin, and Mule. And then you have 3 juniors, 2 sophomores, and then the 3 new freshmen. And talk about at the top. Yeah, you got it right, Ryan. Paige Beckers, a senior, the leader of the pack. How could you not? I'm hyped. Don't get me wrong. I'm hyped for this season, but oh boy, How could you not be hyped for 23 and 24?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely going to be a really fun ride, especially for these last 2 years for Paige Beckers, because we talked about the topic before about Beckers getting a ring, and we talked about it a little bit with Maria when she came on, and she's very, very confident in this team for this year, and I'm sure next year as well. So it's going to be very, very fun and interesting to watch the team over the next 2 years, especially for Paige's senior year and Nika Mule Edwards. Yeah, but I mean, this year, obviously, we're excited. I'm very high on the team this year, but next year, 4 seniors, like you mentioned, Caroline and AZ going to be juniors, a lot of young guards coming in. So very, very excited.
Yeah, well, I'd say, would it make you upset or a little bit mad if I compared it to like maybe Gino's building around Paige Beckers, because he knows these last 2 years they want to push for back-to-back national championships. Would it make you a little bit mad to compare it like the Baltimore Ravens building around Lamar Jackson? Or I don't want to upset you too early on this pod.
No. I mean, you always try to find a way to sneak the Ravens in our podcast. So
okay.
no,
I didn't know if you were looking at it that way. Like, okay, Gino is really built. This is really, even though it's talk about, we get it. We're taking a lot of pressure about not naming anybody else except Paige Beckers. Ryan, is it a comparison like building around Lamar Jackson? Now we're building around Paige Beckers.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think you always have to, no matter what player it is, no matter how good or special or talented they are, you're always building for the future, especially in college, with all the recruits out there coming from high school.
Because they move so quickly.
Yeah, and constantly looking at the transfer portal. So, yeah.
All right, Ryan. Well, I don't know if you see it. I see we have 9 minutes remaining on this meeting. So we'll get down onto the comments section from the last video. UConn Huskies assistant coach Jamel Elliott. Ryan, Iva, last season supporting staff was a silver lining. Chris Daly is at UConn from the beginning of Gino era. They achieved everything together. She could have been head coach of her own team, but chose to stay at UConn because of everything they built. There were times when she replaced Gino because he couldn't be at a game. So she has perfect score. Never lost a game. Wow, that's good to know. I never knew that, Ryan.
Yeah, and hopefully we'll get to that list at some point, maybe this week or the next week. We'll continue that list, and of course, Chris Daly is the next name on that list to finish off the 3 assistant coaches. But I did see that Chris Daly, I think she's 11-0. Don't quote me on that, but I did see that she was undefeated in games that Gino had to sit out and Chris Daly took over. So Chris Daly's been there for a very, very long time. Her and Gino has been through it all together, all the ups, all the really highs, all the really lows. So she's a very, very good coach.
Verbal. UConn just got another verbal for 2023 class. Qadence Samuels, so what this episode is about today, Ryan. 6'2" forward guard from Forestville, Maryland. Did not know much about her. I followed UConn recruiting pretty diligently and didn't know they were really recruiting her, and especially to the level of an offer. Yeah, it's kind of shocking. That's why Ryan said we had to come on today.
Yeah, I mean, when I saw the news, I was really, really shocked because I didn't expect to see any sort of news about. I mean, I probably knew there wasn't going to be another transfer, but I didn't think we'd see any more news about a recruit until possibly the off season. But yeah, very, very surprised. I'm sure a lot of UConn fans like Robo are also share the same. A little bit of confusion, but Qadence is definitely a really good player. Looking at her highlights and all the notes UConn had about her, so I think she has a very high ceiling, especially playing with KK and Shade. Getting to learn from Beckers and Fudd and Caroline. So I think she'll be in really good hands.
And then Gene Morris, Elliott replaced another great player, assistant coach in Shay Ralph.
Yeah, I did see that where Ralph was replaced. But yeah, I mean, I think Gino. We talked about it before. All 3 of these assistant coaches have played under UConn and know Gino very well. So I think with these 3 assistant coaches that UConn has right now on the roster, I think we're in very, very good hands in terms of assistant coaches helping Gino.
And then, instead of just having one full episode, Ryan, because I want to continue on, unless we have more big news. You never know with Gino and company what's going to happen day to day, huh? But unless more big news breaks, I want to continue on the series, the coaches and the players on Thursday when we come back. So let's just very quickly, we wanted to discuss about, we saw not too long ago that Dorka Juhas, she really, I don't think that she was going to have plans on coming back. That's how I take it. As far as that wrist injury, I think that's what really prepped her and made her motivated to return to UConn for one more year, fifth year.
Yeah, and especially because they obviously didn't win the national championship, but very, very horrific injury. We all already know that.
Yeah.
But of course she's gonna be very, very motivated coming off this injury. Such a horrible accident that happened in that game. And then she didn't attend the graduation ceremony, I believe it was, for the seniors. And I think at that time she was kind of debating whether she was there for the graduation ceremony, but I think she was still kind of debating whether she should come back or not to UConn. But of course, when that injury happened, like she said, she kind of made a decision for her. I'm sure she didn't want to have it that way. I'm sure she would have liked to play in those games for UConn and help them to try to win that national championship, because they really, really did miss her during that run in the NCAA tournament last season. Of course, we never, we'll never know what could have happened if they did have Dorka for that national championship game. But that was very disappointing. But hopefully, I think she's doing pretty good with the recovery process so far in the off season. So hopefully she'll come back 100% this year. And I know you're expecting very, very big things from her this season. I think we all are. And I think she'll have another very, very good season for UConn.
And then former UConn guard. She lands on a third team in one season. So 3 teams in one season. I never saw that one coming, but former UConn guard Avina Westbrook signs with the Washington Mystics. So just congratulations to her for actually continuing her basketball career and finding another team to sign with. Because again, Ryan, not only at UConn, not only that program, not only in the NCAA, but in the WNBA, especially with only 12 teams, we understand how competitive it is.
Yeah, it's very hard to stay as a player in the WNBA because of the teams. Not very many players have the opportunity to make it. So very happy to see Avina getting signed by another team, and hopefully, the Lynx didn't work out, the Storm didn't work out for her. But hopefully the Mystics will. And Kristen Williams was also drafted by the Mystics, and then she had that season-ending knee injury, I believe, and she had surgery. So hopefully, if Avina stays on the Mystics and Kristen Williams comes back next year, maybe we'll see them both play together on the same team. So that would be very fun to watch. But hopefully Avina can see a little bit more playing time, and hopefully the Mystics will work out for her.
We want to definitely put all focus on UConn women's basketball 100%, 100% of the time. But I'm going to do this every once in a while, and hopefully they like it. For ones that watch this podcast, comment away, tell us what you think. We like to hear you all, and we like to hear Ryan Renner. And this is the reason why I bring it up, Ryan. Any big surprises stepping away from UConn basketball for just a second? Now that hockey is over, now that the NBA is over. So we're down to just Major League Baseball. And of course, that postseason won't return until October, their playoffs. With that said, let's stick to the topic of women's basketball. Any big surprises that you see when you look at the 2022 standings for the WNBA? I'm looking now and I see there's a good chance the Sky could repeat. And that's where we took off last year when the Sky won it all. So we appreciate everyone coming through on that episode, Ryan. I loved it seeing the Washington Mystics beat the Aces the other night in overtime by a point, I believe it was. So, but any big surprises when you look at these standings so far this season?
Yeah, I mean, I think, well, the first thing I want to bring up Ryan Howard for Atlanta Dream. She's having an amazing year for the Atlanta Dream. Their record Not really where they hoped it would be,
No.
but still a very, very good rebounding season from last year. Worst team in the league, I believe, last season. So they're having a pretty good year, all things considering. Ryan Howard's really lighting it up for them. The Phoenix Mercury, look, they started off really hot. And then they went into a drought where they had a really, really rough patch. Skylar Diggins Smith is still playing very good for them. But again, their record is not really where I'm sure where they thought it would be at this point in the season. Las Vegas Aces looking really good at the top of the leaderboard in the standings. But like you mentioned, got the Chicago Sky chasing them, the Connecticut Sun also playing really good. Candace Parker for the Chicago Sky is playing out of this world. I think she has 2 triple doubles this season. I believe. I know she got 1. I'm not sure if she has 2 or not, but I know I saw where she at least had 1. So it's just incredible stuff out of
All
Candace
you can do
Park.
is shake your
Yeah, I
head.
mean,
There's no words.
it just leaves me
Yeah.
speechless because I mean, she is an older player.